Hello, and welcome to Let's Talk Oregon. I'm your host, Mike Ducett. If you're new to this show or joining us for the first time, this is a show designed to talk to the movers and shakers in this community and to be abreast of all what's happening in this wonderful village of Oregon. And today I am pleased to have on the show our first guest is Lauren Striegl, and she is the Assistant Director of Public Works and Village Engineer. And today she's going to talk to us about her job, her tasks, and kind of what's going around Village with the construction that we all know and love so well. So welcome, Lauren. Thank you for taking some time to come to the show today and to share your experiences with us.
Thanks for having me.
So can you kind of tell us about your path to coming into this position to Oregon? How did you kind of come to the Oregon community? And how did you kind of develop these skills to be the Assistant Director of Public Works and Village Engineer?
Absolutely. So I am not from here. I'm not from Wisconsin originally. I began life in California and came out to Wisconsin to the UW for graduate school. I was a water resource engineer and wanted to get my master's degree and wanted to come to a place that had water to study. California isn't always that. So I did meet my husband out here, and he is from the Madison, Janesville area. And so after a couple of years in Denver, I took a position as a stormwater engineer for the city of Madison, Wisconsin, and spent 8 years there. And after 8 years of learning the ins and outs of municipal engineering and specifically utility design, the position for the assistant director and the village engineer opened up down here. And my husband and I live in town here. It seemed like kind of a perfect opportunity, and in fact it has been. So it's been a great fit, and I've enjoyed every minute of it.
A lot of good diverse experiences in a lot of places, and
yes,
I had to agree between California and Wisconsin. I would always choose Wisconsin. I think they always say happy cows come from California, but we have to keep our cows cold. I think that's really important. What kind of tasks or jobs kind of fall under your purveyance in your position, or what's kind of a typical day look like for you?
That's a great question. And there's not necessarily one typical day, which I'm sure you get from a lot of people you interview. So on paper and kind of overall, my jobs primarily are to focus on engineering projects, as you might expect in the village here. And I tend to focus, because it's my background and because I really enjoy it, on more of your traditional street reconstruction projects. So I really do work kind of hand in hand with the construction inspection crew, with our design consultants who are wonderful, to manage those projects and get them from start to stop. I also spend a lot of time working with our utility staff. So we have a water utility and a sewer utility, and I work with them, technically manage them, but really just support them so that they can do the work that they need to do.
That's busy. That's a lot that falls under. So you did mention the road construction. I think that's been on many of our viewers' minds this year, as we've had some major road closures, not only Burr Oak, but also Janesville Street, probably, that main artery to 138. So, they always joke that Wisconsin has two seasons, winter and construction. We're definitely into that. So can you tell us about this Janesville Street kind of revamp? What can we expect when it's done? What are the timelines? And what's exactly been happening down that road, that closed road?
So that's a really, really excellent question, and it's complicated. So as your viewers are probably aware, we have two projects essentially going on right now. So in May, you started to see shutdowns, and you saw a lot of utility construction. And that was a village-led effort to update utilities, so primarily water main and then some sewer, along Janesville Street. At the end of June, we moved off, and I'm sure some of your viewers live on State in Washington and know that our crews are now fully involved in doing underground and street construction on those two streets to kind of bring those up to be really nice residential streets. Now, simultaneously, Dane County has moved in. They moved in at the beginning of June, I apologize, onto Janesville Street. And they've been doing all of the above ground work that everyone has seen in town here. They've really kind of split it into two halves. They've been working between Spring and Kierstead Street, and they will now move, once they get finished with that, down to Kierstead and work between there and Perry in the areas that we replaced the water main. So that kind of accounts for how complicated everything has been out there this year. Is you've had multiple different
multiple
crews,
agencies
exactly, and different authorities working. But fortunately, we've had a great contractor on our end, and the Dane County crew has been wonderful to work with. So we talk every day, and we're all getting along, and it could be much, much worse. So we're very grateful.
And do you have a projected end date for that, or what can we expect?
Sure. So Dane County, I know, is pushing as hard as they can to get out of that northern stretch of the street. I know they're really optimistic in the next few weeks that they'll be able to get out of that Spring Street intersection, which of course is causing probably the most consternation. It just kind of mixes up our relatively small downtown. So they're trying to get out of there. I know they're final grading, which is in our world the last step before they put down that first course of asphalt. They're doing that today. They're also moving on down to mill and start kind of their destructive activities, I would say, on that second half of Janesville Street between Kierstead and Perry. They're starting that today. So I think the hope is that in the next few weeks, they will be out of this first half and then moving down to that second half. And then their projected end date for their entire project would be sometime in probably October or November.
Okay. And will the Spring Street to Kierstead become open once that's done, or is that going to stay closed pretty much until November?
They're really hoping that they can open it up, particularly that intersection in there for the businesses. We also have a bit of a complicated situation because our fire station is downtown too. And so they've been working with our fire chief and firefighters and EMS who have been wonderful and flexible. But they really want to get that as open as they can for those first responders so that they can get in and out more easily.
Okay, that sounds good. So you heard it here, folks. Hopefully by November, we'll have our village kind of back in one piece and get to those businesses much more easily. So thinking ahead now, what's coming down the road, pun intended, by the way, in terms of projects for maybe next summer or next spring, what can residents kind of anticipate? Is there going to be any new road construction with the new library opening that we're going to need to address? Or, just kind of give us or foreshadow what you can for what kind of projects might be coming down our way.
Yeah, so near term, our big street reconstruction project for next year is going to be South Main Street between State Street and South Perry Parkway. So we obviously have focused on that little triangular section that is bordered by Janesville, Main Street, and then State Street this summer. And we are going to try to wrap up that area, at least semi-temporarily, by next summer. It's an older section of town. There are issues that need to be addressed. And so we're optimistic that we'll be able to kind of get that in check. Now going forward, we are in a very exciting time for infrastructure construction because there's a lot of federal money coming out. And so we did receive a grant from the federal government through the state government to reconstruct East Lincoln Street in 2026. We are working on design for that right now. And that one, I would say, is probably one of our firmer projects. But
Lincoln is the one that goes from Main Street to the high school, essentially, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, big morning traffic on that stretch for sure. Okay.
Yes, and it should really clean things up, but we're very excited that we do have all that federal money because it is a long road. It really does need some help. We are going to, as a village, we're trying to be a lot more proactive going forward, take advantage of all that federal money, but also just really push forward a lot of these street and utility projects that, up until now haven't necessarily gotten the same amount of attention. We're trying to just kind of put that at the forefront of our plans and make sure that we continue picking away at those roads and get that stuff taken care of.
And I think that's really important. It's good strategic planning. And these kind of things, so people can find the information themselves, would be available through village board meeting minutes, other sources. Do you guys do newsletters, anything like that, or?
Yeah, so the village board meeting minutes are probably the best source of information on things like the capital plan. We typically do that in the summer, and the summer is no exception. So the original capital plan for the next 10 years can be found in the July 10th meeting minutes. And I'd encourage viewers that are really interested in the nitty-gritty to then look at all of the other agendas and packets that followed that meeting, because each week really each 2 weeks. We are changing things, moving things around slightly. So while that base one is in on the July 10th packet, we do kind of update as we go along and we identify new priorities.
Okay.
One thing that's very exciting is that we are moving towards getting a new and more functional website at the village. So viewers can look now for some of the current projects. We do have websites for them, but we're looking to really expand that front and be able to host a lot more information on some of this future planning at some date in the future. So look for that soon. That should be coming. That's great. Know that our staff
I think that's great for
on
transparency and communication.
Yeah.
Now, is JC Park construction almost done as well, or is that coming to a close anytime soon, or do we have a date for when that's going to be kind of fully operational?
I think generally the idea right now is fall of this year. They are working on that concession stand, and so I don't have a firm date for you, but I know they're hoping to wrap that one this year, the phase 1 part of that. And then the board is very excited about moving into phase 2, so all that information can be found in the capital plan.
Great. Now, can you explain a little bit about the complexity we have in terms of we have Village of Oregon, Town of Oregon, and county roads? Like, how does that all intersect, and how do we manage all that?
Yeah, so we do have, and I think probably the most applicable to today's issues is county. So we do have these county highways that come through town, and what's happening right now on Janesville and what happened on North Main Street a couple of years ago is we're in the middle of what's called a jurisdictional transfer. So right now, if it were to snow today in August, Dane County is responsible for plowing the section of Janesville Street between Spring and Perry Parkway, as they were Main Street prior to the project a couple of years ago. So what happens when we do one of these jurisdictional transfers is that Dane County essentially gifts us the road for maintenance purposes, but they know that we don't want to take ownership of a road that's in rough condition. And so we split those costs, and at the end of this project, Dane County will hand us this lovely new road and say, go forth and maintain it. And now the village is responsible for things like plowing and sweeping and all of that maintenance.
So it's a little bit of a mutually beneficial situation for the county and the villages and towns.
Exactly.
Great. Well, that's exciting. So we had a lot of great information here on this show today, and this segment especially is very informative to speak with you on all the happenings. I know it's one of those things where, until the road is closed, you don't know how much you need it, and I know that's been on a lot of people's mind. Especially those residents along Janesville. It's been a long, hot, dusty summer for them, I'm sure. So it's good to hear that that's coming into sight, that we're making good progress as a village towards ownership of these roads and maintaining them. And I look forward to seeing it all completed. So thank you for spending your time here with us today, and hope to maybe have you back on to talk about the next big project in the next couple of years. So
thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks, Lauren. And on our next segment, we're going to have Ian Black, an OHS alum, and an actor who recently played the role of Beast in Oregon Straw Hat Players' production of Disney's Beauty and the Beast. So stay tuned, come back for that very informative and fun conversation with Ian. Thanks. Hi, welcome back to Let's Talk Oregon. We're here with our second guest today, Ian Black. Ian is an alumnus from Oregon High School here in Oregon, Wisconsin. And full disclosure, I have worked really closely with Ian in the past as my role as a teacher and director here at Oregon High School. And I thought Ian would be a perfect person to feature on the show because Ian has an incredibly interesting backstory. He's an incredibly talented individual and all-around wonderful guy. So I'm excited to share Ian's story and journey with you here on Let's Talk Oregon. So welcome, Ian. Thank you for coming in today and taking some time out of your summer schedule.
Yeah.
So just kind of tell us about yourself. Tell us about kind of what you're currently working on, where you go to school, and cool information like that.
Yeah, so I am currently a student at UW-Whitewater. I'm a vocal performance major, just finished up my freshman year. going into my sophomore year this next semester, I just finished up a production of Beauty and the Beast with Oregon Straw Hat Players. It was wonderful. It was a really cool experience. It was like very surreal to finally play one of my dream roles as the Beast. And just everyone on the production was like amazing. So yeah.
Right, and if you can't tell by Ian's lovely voice, he has an amazing singing voice and was an absolutely fantastic Beast for that production. That was a huge role. I think one of the biggest roles that you've had yet. Kind of speak to us about some other roles that you've been featured in at Whitewater. I know you've had some success there. And, you know, and specifically also with the Beast role in Beauty and the Beast, like what was challenging for that for you? Like what did you have to do to kind of get into that character?
Yeah, well, this past year at UW-Whitewater, I was in a production of Pirates of Penzance, where I played a pirate and the sergeant of police. And like, it's pretty uncommon for a freshman to get like a named role. So that was pretty cool. And then later on in the semester, I played the role of Malcolm in a production of Macbeth. And that was also a great experience. It turned out to be a really solid show. In terms of like the challenges that I faced playing the Beast, I think, like I said before, how this like is one of my dream roles. Like, yeah, you know, a dream come true, right? And like it's really exciting, but at the same time, like you feel this immense amount of like responsibility to do justice to the character. And I think that's like true with any like iconic character that you play, like something that's been done over and over again. Like just this immense amount of responsibility to like do something fresh, but also like not like stay true to the character. So that was definitely a challenge. And then I think like in terms of physicality, just like really getting into the, I want to say nitty gritty of like. Right,
because you're playing someone not entirely human, but with human characteristics.
Absolutely.
Right? And that's got to be a real challenge to emote and to work that costume and to use that to your you know, as an asset as well. So you did an incredible job. So can you kind of tell us just about your journey as a performer and actor as well? Like when did you start? Why did you get involved? And what has that, you know, how has that helped shape your life thus far?
Yes. So I started performing my freshman year of high school. We did Wizard of Oz. And like that was already like just such a great experience because like I grew up watching the movie Wizard of Oz. And like also my mother was the conductor in the pit for that. So I got to sort of like look down on her and she got to look up at me. It was just like a really special moment for both of us. But yeah, Wizard of Oz, like just I kind of like starting with that, like this beloved like tale and like this story that's so near and dear to my heart, just like kind of really made me realize how much I love performing and how I want to keep doing this. That was like an amazing show. Like an amazing show to have is like my first ever production.
And if I remember correctly, you were a Winky in that, correct?
Yes.
And a Citizen of Oz, yeah.
Yeah, Citizen of Oz, a Winky, and then a snowman. That's right.
All right.
Yeah,
and then as you kind of began to get you know, bigger and bigger roles as your talent kind of grew, what kind of challenges have you kind of faced in that?
Yeah, I mean, I think starting out with Wizard of Oz, like, it was just like, I was just an ensemble member, which is still challenging. I mean, but like, you know, then when I started to get these like bigger roles, like in You Can't Take It With You, and Titanic, and so on, like, just like I started to feel like more responsibility. Yeah, you know, like I started to feel like, oh, I actually have to, you know, put a little more effort.
And most people don't know your name. I mean, it's only like 3 letters. Yeah, it's easy to forget. It's so small. You're nothing without me. Without me, you just disappear. Right into thin air, and no one would care or notice you ever were here. A puppet, an upstart, a loser who's destined to fall. I'm everything you always wanted to be. Let's deal with the issue. You wish you were me. You're nothing without me. Without me, you're nothing at all.
And then also the fact that I am a neurodivergent person, and yeah, I am on the autism spectrum. So like being a neurodivergent performer, it's interesting because like it's not really, there are challenges obviously, but I don't really consider them like setbacks in any way, because like it's just I sometimes process emotions in a different way, process feelings and emotions in a different way from most neurotypical people. And I think in a lot of ways that has like made me a better actor, a better performer.
Can you tell me more about that? Like, expand that a little bit for me.
Absolutely. I think, like, without sounding too egotistical.
No,
like,
go for it. Go for it. Yeah.
Without sounding too egotistical, I think like I'm just sometimes able to process emotions in like a deeper way, like feel feelings in a deeper way than some people would, as a neurodivergent individual. And like, I mean, there was like, it was many years ago, but I was talking to this mental health specialist. I was going like through kind of a very difficult time. I was struggling a bit, and like the first thing that he said to me, like when he walked in, was one of the first things he said to me was, "I just want you to know, you are not a rubberhead." And what he meant by that was, like, you know, some people just like they're rubberheads. Like stuff just sort of bounces off of them. You know, they don't really allow themselves to feel feelings, or like don't really process them in a deep way or a healthy way. So yeah, he told me that I'm like not one of those people, and I'm like, then that sort of started the process of thinking like, oh, okay, I'm sort of starting to get it, because like for the longest time I didn't understand like why I was the way that I was, and why I felt things in the way that I did, and that like kind of started the journey on like sort of self-discovery and self-acceptance.
Right.
Yeah.
And how have you used theater in that journey of self-acceptance as well? Like, what power do you get from that? What feelings do you get from that?
put it this way, like it's much easier sometimes to portray like an entirely different person than it is to like portray yourself. It's
Sure.
Sometimes much easier
There's
to
a
like
mask, right? that you wear.
yeah, exactly, a mask. It's much easier to get to know this like other person than it is to get to know yourself. And like I think in some ways that can be a little dangerous because like you have to sort of draw like this like big line to make sure like that doesn't interfere with like your daily life. You don't want to bring that home with you. But it's also very therapeutic in a way because like you just sort of get to sort of put your life on a shelf for a bit, walk into this theater, be with these people, and just like all work towards a common goal, and like do your best to like just elevate that.
That's great. It's wonderful to hear your process and how you think about that. So, you know, you're currently in school, but what do you see after school? What do you think 5 to 10 years, where do we see Ian Black? What do you think you're going to be doing?
I mean, I would love to perform for the rest of my life. I mean, I think ever since I started doing this, like, there's just been no turning back. I mean, like, when I was a kid, I always wanted to be involved in, like, production of some sort, whether it be, like, theater or film and television, although, like, not right now because there's a bit of a strike going on. But yeah, as a kid, I always wanted to be like more involved with behind the scenes stuff. But I think after like getting involved in theater my freshman year of high school, and like just after I just like kept doing show after show, like I just realized, I enjoy like being on stage, like in front of people too, if not a lot more. So yeah, I would love to do this for like as long as people will let me.
I think people will let you do it for quite some time.
Yeah, so I would love to pursue a professional career and like singing, acting, whatever I decide I want to like more lean into. Like right now I'm a vocal performance major, so like right now the path is more singing based. But yeah, like I still love to act. I would still love to like act in productions, like not just musicals but straight plays as well. Yeah, that's kind of the dream.
Well, that's awesome. Well, Ian, thank you for coming today and telling us about your story and your journey. And I wish you the best of luck in all that you do. And I know that we'll be seeing you 5 to 10 years from now in some amazing roles and some amazing places. So thanks for taking the time to come and talk. All right, folks, that's our show for today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next month on Let's Talk Oregon.